Welcome to the Sleepy Jedi podcast. Relax and join us as we embark on a journey with a wise Jedi and their apprentice through the eerie caverns of a moon forgotten by time, where they uncover ancient secrets of the Force. Together, they must confront the growing shadow that seeks to corrupt their bond and plunge the galaxy into darkness. Among the many stars that glittered in the galaxy, there was a moon that had long been lost to the galaxy's charts, hidden in the forgotten corner of a distant star system. It was a place shrouded in mystery, spoken of only in whispers by the most ancient of Jedi texts. The moon, known as the Veiled Moon, was rumoured to be a place of great power, but power that came with a price. Its surface, covered in endless stretches of rocky plains and deep caverns, was a place where the Force itself twisted in strange ways, where the light and dark danced in an eternal struggle. It was to this very moon that a Jedi Master and their young Padawan had been sent. The Jedi Council, sensing a disturbance in the Force, had tasked them with investigating. The moon had been quiet for centuries, but recently ripples in the Force had begun to radiate from its surface, ripples that disturbed the natural balance. The Jedi could not ignore it any longer. Their ship, sleek and silent, descended through the thick layers of clouds that encased the moon like a veil. As they broke through, the landscape below revealed itself. Craggy rocks stretching as far as the eye could see, broken only by deep, dark fissures that seemed to lead into the very heart of the planet. The air was thick with an oppressive stillness, as though time itself had forgotten this place. The Jedi stood at the helm, calm and serene, their eyes scanning the horizon as they guided the ship to a smooth landing. Beside them, the Padawan, still young but eager to prove themselves, shifted in their seat, eyes wide with curiosity and a hint of unease. "Master," the Padawan began, their voice barely more than a whisper as they gazed out at the desolate landscape. "Why would anyone come here? This place? It feels wrong." The Jedi turned to their apprentice, offering a calm but reassuring smile. "The Force is strong here, but it is also conflicted. It's a place where both the light and the dark have touched. That's why we must tread carefully." The Padawan nodded, though the knot of unease in their stomach tightened. They had faced dangers before, but this felt different. There was something about this place, something ancient and unseen, that gnawed at the edges of their consciousness. The ship landed with a soft hiss, the landing gears sinking slightly into the rocky surface. As the ramp lowered, a gust of wind swept through the open door, carrying with it the scent of dust and decay. The two Jedi stepped out into the moon's eerie silence, their boots crunching softly on the dry ground. The landscape stretched endlessly before them, jagged rocks casting long shadows in the pale light of the distant sun. But it wasn't the barren plains that drew their attention. It was the massive cavern entrance just ahead, a gaping maw in the earth that seemed to pulse with a dark energy. "This is where the disturbance originates," the Jedi said, their gaze fixed on the cavern. "We must be cautious. The dark side is present here, but it's subtle. It won't attack us outright. It will try to lure us in." The Padawan's hand instinctively brushed the hilt of their lightsaber, though they didn't ignite it. "Do you think it's a Sith, Master? Could they be hiding here?" The Jedi shook their heads slightly. "Not a Sith, something older. Something tied to this place. There are remnants of ancient civilizations scattered across the galaxy, many of which had knowledge of the Force. Some embraced the light, others the dark. This moon could be a remnant of one of those civilizations, a place where the Force has lingered long after they have gone. They began their approach, the cavern looming larger with each step. The wind had died down, leaving behind an oppressive stillness that seemed to grow heavier the closer they got. The Padawan, though eager to prove themselves, couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, as though unseen eyes were following their every move. As they stepped into the mouth of the cavern, the temperature dropped significantly, the air thick and damp. The walls of the cavern were lined with strange markings, ancient symbols carved into the stone, their meanings long lost to time. But the Force resonated through them, a low hum that vibrated through the very bones of the Jedi and their apprentice. The Padawan paused, running a hand lightly over one of the carvings. "Master, what do these mean? I've never seen anything like them before." The Jedi studied the symbols for a moment before responding. "These are remnants of an ancient language, one that predates the Republic. Few can read it now, but it is said that those who once lived here had a deep understanding of the Force, perhaps even more so than the Jedi or the Sith. They believed that the Force was not divided into light and dark, but rather it was a single entity that could be bent to the will of those who were strong enough." The Padawan's brow furrowed. "How can the Force be both light and dark? Aren't they opposites?" The Jedi smiled softly, placing a hand on the Padawan's shoulder. "The Force is vast and complex, more than we can fully understand. The light and the dark are part of it, yes, but they are not opposites. They are two sides of the same coin. It's our choices, our actions, that determine which side we align with." As they ventured deeper into the cavern, the darkness pressed in around them. The Jedi lit a small torch, its soft glow illuminating the path ahead but casting long, flickering shadows on the walls. The deeper they went, the stronger the presence of the Force became. It pulsed in the air, thick and heavy, as though the very stone was alive with it. Then, without warning, the ground beneath their feet trembled. A low, rumbling sound echoed through the cavern, followed by a sharp crack as the floor split open before them. The Padawan stumbled back, barely avoiding the fissure that had opened at their feet. "Master!" they cried, their heart pounding in their chest. The Jedi held up a hand, their eyes narrowing as they reached out with the Force, steadying the ground beneath them. The tremor subsided, but the cavern now felt even more dangerous, as though it were alive and reacting to their presence. "The Force here is unstable," the Jedi said, their voice calm but firm. "We must move carefully." They continued forward, but now the cavern seemed to resist them, the walls closing in tighter, the air growing heavier. The markings on the walls became more intricate, more twisted, as though they were warping the further they ventured in. The Padawan could feel it now, the dark side, creeping at the edges of their consciousness, whispering in the back of their mind. It was subtle at first, a quiet voice, soft and inviting. It whispered promises of power, of strength beyond anything they could imagine. It told them that they were special, that they could be more than just a student. All they had to do was reach out, take it. The Padawan shook their head, trying to push the thoughts away, but they lingered like a shadow that wouldn't leave. They glanced up at their master, who seemed unaffected, their expression calm and focused as they pressed on. But the darkness grew stronger, its whispers louder. Suddenly, the path before them opened up into a vast chamber, the ceiling disappearing into darkness high above. In the center of the chamber stood a massive stone altar, ancient and weathered, but pulsing with a dark energy that made the hair on the Padawan's arms stand on end. Surrounding the altar were more of the strange symbols, but these seemed to glow faintly as though they were alive. The Jedi stepped forward cautiously, their eyes narrowing as they studied the altar. This is the source of the disturbance. Whatever happened here, it left a wound in the Force, a wound that has been festering for centuries. The Padawan could feel it too, the weight of the dark side pressing down on them like a physical force. They could hear the whispers more clearly now, telling them to step closer, to touch the altar, to embrace the power that waited for them. Their hand twitched toward their lightsaber, but they hesitated. The voice was so tempting, so convincing. It promised them everything they had ever wanted, the power to protect, the strength to never feel afraid again. All they had to do was surrender. "Padawan!" The Jedi's voice cut through the fog of thoughts like a blade of light, bringing them back to the present. The Padawan blinked, realizing they had taken a step closer to the altar without even thinking about it. I'm sorry, Master," the Padawan stammered, stepping back quickly. The Jedi's gaze softened, understanding but firm. The dark side is strong here. It will try to turn your thoughts against you, to make you believe that you need it. But remember, the Force is with you. Trust in it, not in the whispers of the dark. The Padawan nodded, though the whispers still lingered at the edges of their mind. They took a deep breath, focusing on the calm presence of their master and the steady pulse of the light within the Force. Together they approached the altar, the dark energy swirling around them like a storm. The Jedi reached out, placing their hand gently on the stone, closing their eyes as they focused. The Padawan watched in awe as the air around them seemed to shimmer, the dark energy receding slightly as their master communed with the Force. For a moment, all was still. Then a low, rumbling sound echoed through the chamber, and the ground beneath them began to shake once more. The symbols on the altar fled to life, glowing brightly as the dark energy surged. The Padawans stumbled back, their lightsaber in hand, but before they could ignite it, the darkness took shape. From the shadows, a figure emerged. It was tall and imposing, cloaked in darkness, its face hidden beneath a hood. Its presence was suffocating, a weight in the Force that pressed down on both Jedi and Padawan alike. And from its hand, a red lightsaber ignited, casting a sinister glow across the chamber. "Who dares to disturb my rest?" The figure's voice was a low growl, filled with malice and ancient power. "You are not welcome here, Jedi." The Padawan's heart raced, but their master stood firm, their blue lightsaber igniting with a steady hum. "We seek only to restore balance," the Jedi said, their voice calm but unwavering. "This place is a wound in the Force, and we will not allow it to fester any longer." The dark figure laughed, a cold, hollow sound that echoed through the chamber. "Balance? There is no balance here, only darkness. You cannot heal what was never meant to be whole." With a sudden burst of speed, the figure lunged, their red blades striking down with deadly precision. The Jedi met the blow with their own, the two lightsabers clashing in a shower of sparks. The cavern erupted in a flash of crimson and blue light as the two blades collided, sending sparks dancing across the stone floor. The air seemed to hum with the energy of the Force, swirling around the combatants like a storm. The dark figure pressed forward, their red lightsaber crackling with malevolent energy as they pushed against the Jedi's defenses. The Jedi held firm, their blue lightsaber glowing brightly in the darkness as they parried each strike with calm precision. Every movement was fluid, guided by the Force, their body an extension of their will. But the darkness was strong here, and it pressed down on them like a weight, making every breath feel heavier, every strike more difficult to deflect. The Padawan stood frozen for a moment, watching the battle unfold before them. Fear gripped their heart, the whispers of the dark side still clawing at the edges of their mind, telling them to run, to surrender, to give in to the power that surged through the air. But then the Jedi's words echoed in their mind, "Trust in the Force." Taking a deep breath, the Padawans stepped forward, igniting their own lightsaber with a snaffis, the green blade springing to life. They could feel the pulse of the Force around them, could sense the ebb and flow of the battle. The dark figure was powerful, but they were not invincible. With a burst of determination, the Padawan charged forward, aiming for the dark figure's flank. But before their blade could make contact, the figure spun with blinding speed, deflecting the strike with ease. The red blade slashed toward the Padawan, and they barely had time to block it, the force of the blow sending them stumbling back. "You are weak," the figure snarled, their voice dripping with contempt. "You are nothing compared to the power of the dark side." The Padawan gritted their teeth, the darkness pressing in around them, making it hard to think, hard to breathe. But they could feel their master's presence through the Force, calm and steady like a beacon of light in the storm. The Padawan focused on that, on the connection between them, letting it ground them, let it fill them with strength. "I am not alone," the Padawan said, their voice stronger now, though their hands still trembled slightly as they tightened their grip on their lightsaber. "The Force is with me." The dark figure laughed again, but this time there was something different in the sound, something almost uncertain. They lunged again, their red blade flashing through the air with deadly speed. But this time, the Padawan was ready. They parried the blow, their movements more fluid now, more in tune with the Force. They could feel the energy around them, flowing through them, guiding their every move. The Jedi, seeing the Padawan regain their composure, pressed their advantage, launching into a series of strikes that pushed the dark figure back. Each blow was precise, calculated, but there was no anger behind them, only calm determination. The dark figure snarled in frustration, their movements growing more erratic as they lashed out with increasing desperation. "You cannot defeat me. I am eternal. I am darkness." But the Jedi did not respond to the taunts. Instead, they remained focused, their mind clear as they continued to press forward. The battle was not one of brute strength, but of will, and the Jedi's connection to the Force, pure, unyielding, was stronger than the darkness that surrounded them. With a swift movement, the Jedi disarmed the dark figure, sending their red lightsaber clattering to the ground. The figure stumbled back, their cloak billowing around them as they struggled to maintain their form. The dark energy that had once filled the chamber seemed to flicker, like a flame being starved of oxygen. The Padawans stood beside their master now, their green lightsaber still humming in their hand. The dark figure, now weaponless, glared at them with eyes that burned with hatred. "You think you've won?" The figure hissed, their voice echoing unnaturally through the cavern. "You think the light can conquer the dark? You are fools. The dark side is eternal. It cannot be destroyed." The Jedi stepped forward, their blue lightsaber casting a soft glow in the dim chamber. "The dark side thrives on fear, anger, and hate," the Jedi said, their voice calm but firm. "But it cannot survive in the face of hope, compassion, and peace. As long as there are those who believe in the light, the dark will never truly win." The dark figure's form seemed to waver, their body flickering like a shadow caught in the wind. "You know nothing," they spat, their voice trembling with rage. "The Force is power. It belongs to those who are strong enough to take it. And you are weak." The Padawan stepped forward, their green blade still glowing brightly. "Power isn't everything," they said, their voice steady despite the fear that still lingered in their chest. "The Force isn't about domination, it's about balance. It's about connection." The dark figure's form flickered again, their body seeming to dissolve at the edges as the energy that sustained them began to fade. "No," they whispered, their voice filled with disbelief. "No, this cannot be." And then, with a final flicker, the figure vanished, their form dissipating into the shadows like smoke on the wind. The oppressive weight in the air lifted, and the chamber fell silent once more. For a long moment, the Jedi and their Padawan stood there, their lightsabers still ignited, their eyes scanning the empty chamber for any sign of the dark figure's return. But there was nothing, only the soft hum of their lightsabers and the distant echo of their own breathing. Finally, the Jedi deactivated their lightsaber, the blue blade retracting with a soft hiss. The Padawan followed suit, their green blade disappearing into the hilt with a quiet snap. "It's over," the Jedi said, though their voice was tinged with caution. "For now." The Padawan let out a long breath, their body trembling with the aftershocks of adrenaline. What was that, Master? Who was that?" The Jedi was silent for a moment, their eyes thoughtful as they gazed at the now empty altar. "I do not know," they admitted, "but whatever it was ancient, perhaps a remnant of the ones who once lived here, or perhaps something else entirely. The Force holds many mysteries." The Padawan nodded, though the unease still lingered in their chest. "But it's gone now, right? That thing?" The Jedi placed a reassuring hand on the Padawan's shoulder. "It has been defeated, but the dark side is never truly gone. It lingers in places like this, waiting for those who are vulnerable, those who are tempted by its promises. We must remain vigilant." The Padawan nodded again, though their mind was still racing with questions. The darkness they had faced was unlike anything they had ever encountered before. It was more than just an enemy, more than just a physical threat. It was something that preyed on their very thoughts, their very soul. As they made their way out of the cavern, the Padawan glanced back at the altar one last time. The ancient symbols that had once glowed with dark energy were now dim, their power faded, but the memory of the dark figure's words still echoed in the back of their mind. "The dark side is eternal." They shivered slightly, pulling their cloak tighter around them as they followed their master out into the open air. The sun had begun to set, casting long shadows across the rocky plains, but the oppressive weight that had once filled the atmosphere was gone. The wind had picked up again, carrying with it the scent of dust and freedom. The Jedi and their Padawan made their way back to their ship in silence, both lost in their own thoughts. The mission had been successful. The disturbance in the Force had been dealt with, but the Padawan couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed within them. The whispers of the dark side had been so strong, so tempting. They had resisted, yes, but the temptation had been there, gnawing at the edges of their resolve. As they reached the ship, the Padawan finally spoke. "Master, what if I hadn't been able to resist? What if I had given in to the dark side?" The Jedi paused at the foot of the ramp, turning to face their apprentice. Their expression was calm, but there was a deep understanding in their eyes. "The dark side is always tempting," they said softly. "It preys on our fears, our desires, our doubts. But resisting it isn't about never feeling temptation. It's about making the choice to reject it, even when it seems like the easier path." The Padawan looked down, their mind heavy with doubt. "But what if I'm not strong enough? What if one day I make the wrong choice?" The Jedi stepped closer, placing both hands on the Padawan's shoulders. "You are strong, my young apprentice. Not because you never feel fear or doubt, but because you choose to stand in the light, even when the darkness calls to you. The path of a Jedi is not an easy one, but it is one of purpose, one of hope. Trust in the Force and trust in yourself." The Padawan met their master's gaze, seeing the quiet confidence there, the unwavering belief in them. Slowly they nodded. "I will, Master. I'll try." The Jedi smiled, a small but warm smile. "That's all any of us can do. Now come. Our journey is far from over." Together they boarded the ship, the ramp closing behind them with a soft hiss. As the engines roared to life and the ship lifted off from the rocky surface of the moon, the Padawan took one last look at the barren landscape below. The veiled moon, once shrouded in darkness and mystery, now seemed different. The shadows were still there, yes, but they no longer felt overwhelming, no longer oppressive. As the ship ascended into the stars, the Padawan felt a sense of peace settle over them. The darkness had been strong, but the light had prevailed. And as long as they trusted in the Force, they knew they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. The stars stretched out before them, endless and full of possibility. And somewhere, out in the vastness of the galaxy, new adventures awaited. The Force was with them, always.